Hey, Vedanta, are you ready?
Good morning, Bede. I am ready.
Okay. Now, what we're going to just want to go over. We're just making the point in the last little conversation that often people try to change experience by having other experiences.
That's so cool, that sentence. People try to change an experience by having an experience. And
Yes.
it's so true that we do that.
And
Yes.
people in the spiritual world think that if they meditate long enough, they'll have an experience of bliss or peace or whatever. But it's an experience. But what we're dealing with in Vedanta transforms experience, but it's not an experience. It's actually a clarifying light in which we see experience in an entirely different way.
Okay. That's actually the tricky part. I mean, we're so used to looking for an experience to change our experiences that now you're saying that do we start looking for a light, or how does that go?
Now this is the point. You see, when we're in a dark room, we need an external light, because the very mind that we have that's looking at this experience of being in darkness and bumping against things because we can't see straight, having all sorts of upsets, we need an external light. Now, what Vedanta does is that when we begin to listen to a traditional teacher who's been trained in the method of unfoldment, and there's no other way, by the way, I mean, that I know of, that what happens is as you listen to the teacher, what happens is, and what they do is they use the words of the scriptures in such a way that it acts as a mirror. So you actually start to see as they see, because a teacher is someone who has a vision. And they communicate this vision through using words. And what we do is we then see through the words. We're not picking up concepts. We see through the words, and we start to see as the teacher sees. Now, it's not like we see like bang. We have this moment of enlightenment or any of that nonsense. What it is that, first of all, we start to see the vague outline of something.
Yes.
Okay, we start to see the vague outline. In other words, what happens is that through listening to a teacher, the light of Vedanta, the vision, this way of seeing, which is different from our normal way of seeing, because our normal way of seeing is in darkness, actually.
Yes.
So what it does is it enables us to see. So a way of seeing is introduced. Now, at the beginning, when it's introduced on any particular point, it's not, it comes in amongst a whole lot of other ideas that go against it. Because you see, before Vedanta, we have various ways of seeing. And these ways of seeing we have had for a long time. We have beliefs, we have ideas about what life is, who we are, what other people are, and what the world is. So when it's introduced, what happens is that even though we see the outline, we've got other thoughts that are we have doubts about this new way of seeing. So the process is always the same. The new way of seeing becomes active in us through listening to a teacher, and it becomes active in us. We don't create it. We listen to a teacher, and what we do is we find ourselves seeing something. We find ourselves having a vision. Does that make sense? Partaking in a vision, a way of seeing. However, because it's introduced into a mind with many other notions, it's first of all has to be established clearly in us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like what we were saying before when we first hear that the unfolding of the way of seeing that says that people and things don't hurt us. They're only instrumental in revealing a pain that's already here. In other words, people and things activate a self-dissatisfaction of some sort. Now, when we first hear that, we can see what that means when we're listening to the teacher. However, when we get out in life and people do things that we really hate, we have this experience that that's not true. We may even have doubt. We have doubts. Like, is it really true? I mean, this person has said a hideously cruel thing.
Yes.
Or they've done a very unjust thing. So we have doubts about that fact. So that way of seeing, first of all, has to become doubt-free.
Yes.
So how this new light is introduced into our minds, as a way of seeing, is first of all by listening.
So when you say listening, Bede, it's like the teacher just sitting down and listening, or is it something else?
No. It's just simply listening. The teacher's unfolding a way of seeing. And there you are, you're listening, and then you suddenly find yourself seeing. It's not the result of any ego function.
Yeah.
It's not the result of becoming, I want to become this or become that. What happens is you're sitting there, you're listening, and like, when your eyes are closed and you open them and you can just simply see a tree.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's not an act of will. You haven't decided, I really want to see what this teacher's saying and I want to get it. No. That's not, or you're reading a Vedantic book and say, I really want to understand this. No, it's not like that. It can only occur with a living teacher when you're actually in relation to that teacher and you're listening. That's the first. Yeah. So listening introduces an entirely different way of seeing. In other words, you start to see the outline. Okay?
Yes.
But it's like our little points in terms of when we're first introduced to the subject, people and things, for example, that way of seeing that says that people and things don't hurt you, they're only instrumental in revealing a pain, that is something that we can see. It's a way of seeing. However, when it's first introduced, we have intellectual doubts about it because we've got other thoughts of an intellectual nature, notions. These notions then have to be cleared up so that there is the clarity of seeing. It first of all comes in, but it's not a doubt-free. It's not a doubt-free seeing. It then has to be transformed into, yes, I can see this completely clearly. So it has to be established in us in a very clear way that doesn't have any doubts. All of us have to agree with it, have to actually say, yes, this is absolutely true.
Yes.
Now, okay.
It is good what you are saying, and it's new to listen to something and get a doubt-free, different way of seeing things. That's what it's about, isn't it?
Well, you listen first, and then what happens is you have to, when you go into life, you're going to start having doubts about it because it's going to go. And then what you have to do is you have to reflect. You've got to dwell on the fact. You've got to reflect on your experience in the light of this. Here you find yourself blaming your spouse or some other person, some significant other, for your upset. Then you go, now, is this really true? Here I'm having this experience. It's true. I'm having the experience that they're hurting me. So what seems to be true is here. And then we look at this experience in the light of the teaching and say, well, the thing is they did say this, that's what they did, and it was unfair. But where does the pain come from? Is it me that's in pain, or have they created this pain in me? And so by reflection, I begin to understand clearly that people and events don't hurt me. They are just simply instrumental in triggering this samsaric condition. Okay? Now, so we listen, then through a process in our living, we reflect until that way of seeing that has become active in us in class is clear, crystal clear.
Yes.
Now, you'd think that was the end of it, but it's not. Because we habitually feel blame when people hurt us, in inverted commas, when we have the experience. It's such a habitual habit, and it's an emotional thing, isn't it? We just know that they're in trouble. What happens is we forget. We forget that way of seeing. We forget what is true. And we get caught up in the old way. Have you ever noticed that? So you see something clear and you go, yes, of course. People and events don't hurt me. They're only instrumental in revealing the pain in me. And then 2 hours later, your spouse says something you don't like, and suddenly you've totally forgotten it. Have you ever seen that happen?
Sure, all the time. And I say, oh my God, why the hell on earth did I do that when I know that it's different? I mean, you just fall into the mistake again and again.
But now, because the understanding is clear, it can be recalled. So what happens is, here I am. I'm in a situation where I'm blaming and hostile because of other people's actions towards me. And right in the middle of it, it comes to me, I'm caught up again. So what I do is, right now, suddenly, as soon as I recognize that, suddenly, because the understanding has become active in me, I'm now with my self-dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And then so what I do is, I just simply bring the understanding right there when I'm experiencing this blame. I just simply bring the understanding, this way of seeing, that's now been clearly established. If it's not clearly established, it won't have any force. But if it's clearly established, understanding has a force. So what happens is, you're caught up in blame, you recall this understanding, and you look at this present blaming that's happening right now, right where I am, as I am. I'm blaming.
Yes.
And then, right there where I am, I then just simply dwell on this experience in the light of this understanding. And then what happens is, we find ourselves just simply shifting out of the blame, and we suddenly find ourselves not blaming.
I must say, I did try it out, and in a work situation, this is so handy. And sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it doesn't go so well. I recently received feedback from one of my colleagues, and at that point of time, my instantaneous reaction was indeed to mentally push this feedback out, because it did hurt. But then, as you say, then this teaching had to come back, and at that point, at that very moment. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
It takes time to learn this. You see, this is the thing. What happens is that the thing is that when we're under the sway of blame, for example, it is a tremendous force.
Yes.
But each time, you see, what actually resolves that force, once we have the understanding, every time we do it again and again, every time we find ourselves blaming, we look at our life in the light, and we contemplate our life in the light of the vision that is now clearly and doubt-free. It's now useful to us. Once, you see, and this is what they mean by assimilation. Each time I do this, I bring the light of the teaching, the understanding, to bear on my present experience now, because I've noticed now I'm blaming. So I bring this light to this present experience, and I again and again see. But the only time I can see it is when it's happening. It's not a theoretical thing. I'm now in a state of self-dissatisfaction. I'm blaming.
Yeah.
The understanding comes to me, and I pause, and I just examine, and I dwell on this experience called contemplation.
Yes.
And so what happens is, each time I do this, what happens is this clarity becomes more and more firmly established in me until it is me. Until it is me as an individual. This is just simply the way I see it. And this is what they call assimilated knowledge.
Okay.
So we've got a process here that knowledge, unless it's assimilated, is of no value to us, because when it's assimilated, we become that way of seeing, and we are that way of seeing stably. Does that make sense? And it's non-forgettable. You see, before this time, we forget. the reaction happens, and we get lost.
Yes.
But in order to make it, my teacher Swami Atma Prakashananda says, to make it unforgettable.
Yeah.
This is the key. And so we have this process. This isn't, and we're just talking about blame here, but there's many other factors in our life where the way of seeing that we need to look at our daily life. There's different factors that we learn from when we listen to a teacher. We go through the same process. So the whole Vedantic process consists of listening.
Yes.
To introduce into our system a way of seeing, into the darkness, we have a way of seeing.
Yes.
And when we first see it, it's in outline. It's not full and complete.
Yes.
And then we've also, but when it's first introduced, it's normally always doubtful. It's got doubts. It's doubtful knowledge. We then clarify it so it becomes crystal clear.
Yes.
Now, this takes time. It's through reflection.
Yes.
And then it's now part of us. We see. We become this way of seeing. However, we forget it. Now, the only way to make it unforgettable and to assimilate it so it becomes a part of us as an individual is through the act of contemplation. So now we're no longer reflecting. We know what the truth is. The problem is we have to deal with this habitual, reactive, old views that have been formed in us unconsciously. And then we keep doing this until it becomes fully assimilated. So now it is now an attitude. It is us. It is our way of seeing.
Wonderful, Bede. We started with this metaphor of light highlighting an outline and how it becomes clearer and clearer. And listening and, clearing up doubts. The Vedantic process is clear to me. Especially the fact that you have to actually have you have to listen first.
Without listening, without the vision that Vedanta is, and it's a vision, it's not a philosophy, it's not a spiritual philosophy, it's not something mystical from India. The very first thing we have to listen is the only way that this way of seeing, which is the Vedantic vision, it's only through a Vedantic teacher actually. Then we start to see as the Vedantic teacher sees. And this is light that not only it what it does is it transforms our experience of ourselves, other people, and the world.
Yes. Makes a lot of sense, Bede. Thanks a lot. Very clear.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.